Why are the banks our enemy? Let's talk about it. And again, I'll put this headline back up, and a lot of people forget. Look, the banks that you do business with are the ones that are laundering money. And you'll see this. HSBC faces questions over disclosure of alleged money laundering to monitors. And we've seen a litany of this over the past 5 and 10 and 20 years. And my good friend Max Kaiser, who had me on his show, The Kaiser Report here in London, has documented for decades all of the money laundering and corruption going on with banks. And so it always makes me laugh when the banks point to the cryptocurrency markets as where illegal activity is going on, when, since the banks control most of the money in this world, by definition, they are doing the money laundering. And we know they are because they continually get caught. They continually pay hundreds of millions of fines, and we continually let it go. And we bail them out as governments with your money. And it was Andreas Antonopoulos who was my guest here back in 2015, back in 2017, back in 2019. I've been talking about Bitcoin since 2013, by the way. And Andreas said this, and I'll say his quote again, and I'll play a video of him shortly. He said, Brian, quote, "The biggest criminals in the world have banking licenses of their own. The biggest money launderers are the banks, obviously, because that's where the money is." And he made a great point, and I'm going to play that video for you shortly. And again, we always know that the banks have their own interest in mind, but now we are at war with the banks because they see DeFi and decentralized finance as something that's going to break up their monopoly that they've had over your money, over your mindset, really, for the last few hundred years. They have been controlling almost every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life is a financial transaction. Right now, you're paying rent. You're paying for your healthcare somehow. You're paying for your gym membership. You're paying for your food. You're paying for your children's education. And guess what? Your bank is taking a piece out of every single one of those transactions, and you don't even know it. Now they're fighting. And so they're putting out all this information out there. They're trying to, quote unquote, protect your money. And they're trying to stop cryptocurrency and DeFi from happening because they collect $9 trillion in fees every single year without you even knowing it. And that's going to disappear when it comes to crypto assets. And again, I got this text recently and I found it shocking, and I'll read it out to you. And it says this. This came from NatWest. "With regulatory uncertainty around Binance in the UK, we want to make sure your money is safe." Thank you, NatWest. "That's why we'll be declining all credit and debit card payments to them until further notice." That's fascinating, okay? And by the way, this is my money. I earned this money. I deposited this in a bank, and I allowed them to have custody over it. And now they're telling me how I can and cannot use my own money. And it's quite an interesting coincidence that they're doing it on a platform that allows me to make my own decisions about my own money. And again, when you get messages like this, when we see headlines like the one I'll put on the screen right now, which goes on to say that NatWest caps transfers to crypto exchanges, of course, including Binance over fraud concerns. And again, when you see things like this pop up, if you're an RBC customer, that says basically effectively immediately, RBC will no longer be allowing the use of RBC credit cards for transactions involving cryptocurrency. We regret any inconvenience this may cause. Do you? Really? When you start seeing messages like that, it's a sign. But it's not the sign that the banks want you to think. The banks want you to panic and think, oh my gosh, these are dangerous. I better stay away from this. It's a great way to lose money. The sign is this, is that they are losing control over you. They are losing their incredible amount of revenue they make from you every single day. And the sign is for you to wake up. And so my question to you right now is, when will you wake up and educate yourself and invest in the DeFi and crypto assets? Is it going to be 2023, 2025, 2030? It's going to be too late unless you start today. And that's why I'm putting out these broadcasts, because it's time to educate yourself in what's happening today. And again, I worked in these banks for years and years and years. I started in '93. I saw what they do from the inside. They know they have you as a captive customer, and they try to rip as big a fees as possible from you. They try to take as much transaction costs out of you, and they do it everywhere they can, from your savings to your 401k, to your pensions, to your school loans. Every single transaction, they try to take as much as possible, and they're going to continue to do this unless you diversify through the use of DeFi. And I want to play a short video here of Andreas Antonopoulos talking about some of the things happening behind the scenes in the banking industry. Listen to Andreas talk about the money laundering and some of the things happening inside the banks you do business with.
We're sitting at a historical crossroads where the future of money is going to be digital. We're seeing a concerted effort around the world to ban cash, to reduce the availability, the value, and the liquidity of cash everywhere in the world. We just saw India demonetize the top 2 value notes they have. Spain is passing a law to make it illegal to make any transaction more than 1,000 euros in cash. Probably the 500 euro, 100 euro notes are going to disappear eventually. You're seeing this process of demonetization, of removing cash from the economy in order to funnel it all into banking systems that are under constant control and surveillance. This is a very dangerous future.
And that's usually because they want the taxation or they want the legislation. Either they see that money used by corrupt parties or they just use that as an excuse to control it.
The biggest criminals in the world have banking licenses of their own. They don't need to money launder. They own HSBC and that money launders for them. You know, the biggest money launderers in the world are the banks, obviously, because that's where the money is. The easiest way to money launder is if you have a banking license. So, of course, the biggest money launderers have banking licenses. These are excuses. What they want to do, of course, is, they say, taxation and corruption. But in fact, this actually increases corruption. So removing cash from an economy and putting everybody under surveillance doesn't mean the criminals can't use money anymore. Of course they can. They will continue to do that. They will always have means of doing it. It just means that everybody else is under surveillance. So you end up surveilling the innocent. And what does that give you? That gives you political control. This is a very dangerous road we're going down.